everybody. I'm Judy Kain, and my guest today is Stacy Edwards. We're just going to talk today about some of the classes that you teach at Keep It Real, which have been invaluable for so many people. Meisner-Based scene study and the booking the theatrical audition class. But I just want our listeners to know that that you are an amazing actress who has done an amazing body of work over the time that you've been doing this. And I would love for them to know how you started your journey in acting. And I know a little bit, but I'd like them to hear it. So tell us how you started and your training.
Sure. First of all, it's very kind of you to say. I'm wiggling because I'm a little uncomfortable, but it's very sweet and kind of you to introduce me like that. I was a dancer, and I got a scholarship to study in Chicago. That's what took me to Chicago. But I had always wanted to study theater as well. And I honestly, not knowing what to expect, not knowing what to look for, I called the first theater that I put my finger on in the phone book, because that's how we found things back then, was Wisdom Bridge Theater, which is no longer actually in Chicago, but it was a very well-known theater, and they had a study acting program. So I went down there and had my interview, and I am so fortunate that that was the one that I chose, because that is how I have approached my work ever since. And they trained, the instructors at Wisdom Bridge trained with a gentleman named Edward K. Martin, who studied with Sandy Meisner. And Ed, why I always say it was based on Meisner was because Ed introduced an aspect to the technique that wasn't initially in Sandy's approach, which was also to recognize how the other person is making you feel. So you still keep your attention on your partner, and you still speak to what you see, but it's also very important to know how that person is making you feel. And to recognize your feelings. Also just to, when you go into your audition, it's important for you to be able to put a word to how you're feeling, or 3 or 4 words, because sometimes we're feeling many things,
Right.
So that we can use it. And if we try to...
There was an actress, I want to just interrupt for a second because I'll forget otherwise, but there was an actress who shared with me recently. She said she was so grateful for you because she always got nervous, and she said, and I finally realized that I can use that nerves for the character, for the scene that I'm doing, is not to ignore it, but to just use it in the scene that I'm doing, rather than it should be like this, and to try to squelch down something that we're feeling, which is it's really hard to do that.
It is. I mean, it almost is impossible, and it always will keep you in your head somewhat if you even are able to sort of try to ignore it. And so I feel really fortunate that that's where I started, just by chance, because again, I knew nothing. And so I studied and got a decent foundation there, loved my instructors, and then moved to LA. I did theater, and I got my SAG card in Chicago doing industrials and a couple commercials and voiceovers. And Chicago's a great city and a great place for actors. It was a great training ground for me. And so I got booked on a soap opera, which there are very few nowadays. But back then, there were many, and it was a great way to learn how to use the camera, and another great training ground for camera work. So I came to LA, and that's where Edward K. Martin was living at the time. So they then got to study with Ed, which he was truly, he was genius. He could see every little thing that was living inside you, and what you were ignoring and what you were faking. And he was pretty amazing. So I feel very fortunate to have had an opportunity to work with him for a few years.
I remember you said once, because I think this is also important for people to hear, because you never see that, I never see this part of you, but you said that, you used to go to class and you wanted to vomit. Yeah.
Every class I wanted to throw up. It was true, because there was no hiding in front of it. None. I mean, oh my gosh, he had X-ray vision, and he didn't let you slide. And, I hope I have a different approach than Ed. He was a bit of, he was rough. He was tough. He was, there were many classes I left felt so beat up and raw and exposed and like crud. So when I have an actor who is feeling a lot of that pain, I relate and I say, listen, I know it sucks. It really doesn't feel good right now. And you need to feel this for a week till the next class, because oftentimes we are avoiding a lot, myself included. We're human. I mean, we know we don't want to feel uncomfortable feelings, and but we have to allow ourselves to explore every layer of our onion. And lately I've been using the analogy of there is a seed of everything in all of us. Everything. The good, the beautiful, and the ugly. And as actors, we are our instrument. We are the vessel of our artistry. So we have to allow ourselves to let that seed bloom. I mean, how else are we going to play really crazy roles outside of our comfort zone, and we love the actors who do.
Right.
And they're willing.
Right.
And so we have to be willing. And so, as I've said numerous times to all my actors, this is not therapy, but it is therapeutic. And it definitely does start affecting your personal life. I think for the better. I think the people around you might be a little, why are you all of a sudden bringing up stuff and talking to me like that? Why are you so in the moment and really picking on everything that I'm doing or avoiding? But it does come down to communication and really seeing who is in front of you and their behavior and how they're making you feel. And hopefully you finally find a balance. But that's what acting is. Acting is, when I say listening fully, it's being so present that you are receiving your partner fully. And I'm watching your head nod, and I'm watching your mouth get tight, or your smile, or, it's using all of our senses, even I say our sixth sense. That's how present we need to be.
Yes, and I remember when I was in class, in the beginning when I moved to LA, and it wasn't Meisner, but it was Ken McMillan, and he also had this amazing, I don't know, I guess bullshit sensor, and he'd throw stuff at you. He'd throw stuff at you in the middle of the scene, and I mean, I so prepared. I brought in props, and, it's interesting because I don't know what shifted, where that message stopped or where that kind of sense of teaching stopped, but it feels today like there's a lot more coddling, and we want acting to feel comfortable. And I don't know, when it's not always comfortable. It's not always comfortable on a set. It's not
Oh,
comfortable in an audition.
never.
Why would it be, you know, cootsy cozy, comfy wumpy in an acting class? I mean, that's where you have to say, I always say we have to be willing to do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, then we go home and we close up, but we have to be willing to do this while we're here, or we're never going to do it.
Exactly. If you can't do it in class, you're not going to be able to do it on set or in the audition. And yeah, it is exposing. I sometimes even explain to my actors, sometimes I'll take an imaginary knife and I'll bend over from the ground up and like cut myself open as if I've exposed myself to the world and to my actors. So it sometimes it helps me, this type of imaginary exposure will help me feel more vulnerable and receptive.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I know, you know, because I've been in your class. Well, not with you, but I've been in class with Jeff Kober. And it was hard. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's challenging. But that's how we learn and grow. And
exactly. And I agree with you, at least here in LA. I don't know how it is in Chicago anymore because I'm not there, and nor New York, which I've also taken some classes over the years, you know. So I don't know if it was a time and era that was the approach to the work was different, where we lived and breathed it. I mean, it wasn't just acting class that we would show up and do it. We were reading, rehearsing, working, studying, absorbing as much as we could throughout the whole week. I mean, that was the reason to get up in the morning,
right?
The passion.
Right.
And when we were there, we were not, again, we didn't have cell phones, but we weren't thinking about what was going on. We were there for every other actor. We were watching and absorbing and critiquing in our own mind and learning from, and there was camaraderie where, you know, there was some sort of support in a way of, and getting information that way as well. And I miss that. And when actors who are in my class, you know, when we're doing exercises, like repetition or some A-B scenes, or even in our scene work, I get sometimes from young actors or newer actors, yeah, I'm feeling much more relaxed. And I always say, yeah, that's not the goal. Relax is sitting on the couch watching Netflix and, you know, drinking a Coke. No, you can feel excited. You can feel energized and passionate or engaged and present, but those are all active things. Relax is not what, comfortable, like you said, and relax is not what we're aiming for, because acting is active.
Yeah.
And it oftentimes is not going to feel comfortable. Oftentimes.
No, I think sometimes I know that my best work is usually when I feel like I'm walking on a tightrope. You know, where I'm really not sure what's coming next, you know, and it's, of course, for me, Judy, that's not where I want to live. I want to live in my little control area, but I know that's my best. And I look at it back in a tape or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was right in the moment. It's so much more interesting to look at, you know. I find, we do have a question from a viewer, but I find that actors are so concerned about getting the words right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where if they can just get the words right, that it'll be fine. But that's not really what's happening. It's really what's going on between you and the other person.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. Yeah. That's where the energy is. That's what's interesting. And 9 times out of 10, the more you do put your focus on your partner and really are taking them in, the words will come to you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's very interesting how that happens. But yes, you're right. I mean, not to say that the words don't matter, but the life of the scene is what's happening between you and your other actor, for sure.
Yeah. 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 Teresa wants to know, can you talk about use of the imagination versus truth of the moment, i.e. camera in your face at the most intimate moment?
Yeah, that's a reality in film work. You're right, Teresa. I use that energy as well. You know, when you are on stage and you have an audience, there's always an energy. There's always, you're feeding off of that. You can't help but notice that. And sometimes they're good nights and sometimes they're not such good nights, but there's always energy that you should use. That's the same with me for the camera. Camera's the audience. And if you and I are having the scene and the camera's right here, and it's uncomfortable, or if it's annoying because I feel it's so intrusive, or if, you know, not only is it here, but they said, Stacy, I can't afford you to move. You know, you really have to, the focus, you know, and so, and I feel so frustrated that I can't move and I need so much to connect to you. I just put all of that into you. And my need becomes even more heightened, I think, because of what is the reality. And again, so you use it. If I'm understanding the question correctly, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what she's saying. And I remember when I took class, which was extremely vulnerable at my own studio. To be a student with people that have taken class with me before and to fail gloriously, you know, in front of them. But I really understood, and I needed to understand because things had been going. Was several years ago, but it was going from in-person auditions to in-person self-tapes. Basically, you'd go in the casting office and they tape you, or you tape yourself. And I found that my booking ratio was going down, and I was like, something's happening here, because there was this camera that was really in the scene with me, and I wasn't addressing it or using it, or I was really trying to do almost the same thing, like shove the fear down. I was trying to go, that's not here, that's not here. I'm, you know, and once I sort of incorporated it into the whole thing and allowed my feelings to be there with it and almost have it be another person, I started booking.
Interesting.
Things for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's a good
absolutely.
reminder. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it is a good reminder. And, you know, class to me, well, you can speak on this too, but, you know, class for me really, it can't be, well, that's what you do, you know, for 6 weeks, and then you go and become a working actor.
I wish it were that easy.
I know.
No, you're right. It's a lifetime. I mean, I get rusty. There are times where I wish I could be in class, or there is a little group of actors that, you know, before COVID, we would get together and work out. And it's necessary. I mean, teaching, I'm sure you feel the same way, does help somewhat. It does keep me lubricated somewhat and not as rusty. And because I almost feel like I'm in the scene with my actors, very invested in their given circumstances. And so that's a great benefit for me for
Yes,
teaching.
absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also, as I explained to my actors, we continually grow and change, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so our acting, our skills, our life experiences, our points of view, all are going to grow and change. So we're going to approach our work just differently because we're different.
Right.
And that's great. I mean, really, it's wonderful that we still have an outlet for who we are. And it does force us to take a good look at who we are. I mean, listen, that's not comfortable either. Growing and aging and changing, like, oh, I'm not the ingenue anymore.
Right, right.
No, dear, haven't been for a long time. You know, I mean, so
Yeah.
it is taking stock in who we are constantly.
Yeah.
And because we're human, we will fall back on bad habits if we haven't been working or auditioning or working out. And we have to just be aware of it, address it, not beat ourselves up. I mean, I did for many years, and now I'm just thinking, yeah, I wasn't listening, or, oh, I didn't do enough work, you know, and just, okay, moving on.
So let's talk about some people that have come through the scene study, the ongoing scene study, which is Meisner-based. And like, for example, okay, class starts at 7. What do you guys do? You do.
Well, on Zoom, it is a little different.
Right. Yes.
And it's actually worked far better than I thought it would. I was really nervous at first. And honestly, nothing will substitute for all of us being together. That's just known. But we actually do have some fantastic work, and actors have really challenged themselves. And I have had the privilege to work with actors from around the country, even not just LA. You know, I've worked with some amazing actors from Chicago, St. Louis, New York, Sacramento, Northern California, San Diego. I have someone in class from San Diego and a couple from Sacramento. It's great, where I wouldn't have had that opportunity before.
Right.
So when we start class, we all kind of just, I check in with everyone, seeing how everyone's doing, if they have anything to share, any questions. And then last week, for instance, I introduced an A-B scene, just this general, very short scene that I had everyone memorize, you know, both A and B roles. And the purpose of that was to learn how to not put expectation on how the line should be said, to not plan, to work in the moment. And so we would check in, how are you feeling right now? And if they start thinking about, no, there's no right answer. It's just coming from your body. How are you feeling? And so we're working on trying to put words and recognizing how we're feeling in the moment and trying to be more specific than general. I feel good, or I feel uncomfortable. Okay, why? And what can be more specific, you know, what than just being uncomfortable or sad? Sad is good, but is there more to that? And then launch into the scene, the A-B scene. Just where you are. And it was so fun watching my actors because they really were embracing that and because we've done it before, and it is a process. It is a finding of one's trust to let go of everything we want to control and being correct or right, or, you know, just really seeing our partner.
And the scene changes because you're reacting to what the other person is, right? So it's
Exactly. There's no obligation. And it's interesting because it's a really kind of innocuous scene, but we as humans just already assume that there's a certain tone or mood or way that certain words should be said. And so we find ourselves even on the most, mundane sentence. And so it was great for actors to be able to realize when they were doing that and then when they left themselves alone. That's just as valuable is to recognize, oh, I'm not listening, or, oh, I planned that, or I'm in my head. That's, to be able to recognize that is fantastic. So then we can go back into the scene fully. So we do exercises like that. We do emotional prep sometimes, which is what I call it. You can call it fantasy, you can call it daydreaming, but in order to help us with our preparation. So it becomes specific to Stacy or to Judy. It's not a generalization of a woman going through this and she must be feeling that way. And if I were her, no, you are her. These are the given circumstances. And finding how you as Judy got, the truth part is how it relates to you and how you would get to that point, how you would find yourself. And sometimes it takes time. It's not apparent. And that's also what I try to express to my actors. It takes time. It's not just about getting the words down.
Yeah.
And so we work on that. And then, of course, every class, when we do our scenes, we talk about the specifics. And my goal is to try and help them learn how to ask themselves the right questions to make it specific enough for them so then they can audition or report to set. Doesn't mean that we don't need coaching from time to time. I get coaching from time to time, but to have the tools, to have your craft so that you can feel, even after you've done your work, you report to set and the director throws directions at you, you can absorb them, you can accept them so that you can make any adjustment that he or she wants. We have to be willing, and that is our training, to accept whatever the given circumstances are. And those are notes or directions as well. And it may sound so simple, and it is a simple concept, but it takes
Practice.
It takes years of practice. And even you and I, who've been doing this so long, I know I can get rusty. I know I can all of a sudden, if I haven't had an audition in a long time, I want to control, and I place way too much importance on this because I don't know when my next audition is going to be. And I have to, talk myself down and start again, just from the foundation that I have been trained, and I try to share with my actors. It's a continuous process.
No, absolutely. For everybody. I'm sure even Meryl Streep, finds moments where she's like, what am I doing? I'm not, whatever. I only can hope that she has those same experiences that we all have.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard her
Artist.
say in interviews that people say, so how do you do it? I don't know, she said, or I oftentimes am so scared of it or feel ill. And I can relate to feeling ill or scared of a situation or a role, or it's actors are brave. Actors are brave artists.
Yeah.
They put
As,
themselves
as,
out
as one of our teachers say, yeah, you're the bravest people in the room because you're the one who's being shot.
There you go.
Which I love. So that was my next question, and it is something I know actors deal with. So let's say you've come to your audition, what you're tapping into, what's going on with Stacy, and you get there and the director says, "Can you just do it faster?"
Yeah.
You deal with that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is rare that you get helpful direction. I receive that information and I check in with how that makes me feel. And if it pisses me off, if all of a sudden I want to scream and I'm angry, I'm thinking, yeah, thanks a lot. That's really okay. Yeah, I'll speed it up. And I just use it. And usually that energy and that whatever that is that I'm feeling, that aggression, or, oh, you're challenging me, or you think I can't do, I mean, you take everything personally, as you should, and use it, I remember one director, I was shooting a film and he said, so you are going to cry, right? Like, thanks. you know,
Oh,
that's,
I can't wait to hear the answer to this. Yes. So,
well, I mean, I was so angry, and he really, this was his first film. I have to give him that much. But yeah, and of course it's, it was an independent, so we only had X amount of film, and this is when we use film. I walked away and I just, talked to myself. I said, yeah, what's happening in the scene. You know where you are, who you're talking to, what's just happened to you. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to cry or not. I honestly didn't. But I listened more than I think I ever have in my whole career to my actor. And it was perfect because I let it go. I didn't allow that pressure. And yeah, he got the tears that he needed, but I honestly didn't know. And I think, fortunately for me, I didn't have time to really worry about that. I just knew time was of the essence, and we just had to focus because we had to get out of there and we didn't have film. And somehow that's what I did. And so when we do put all of our focus on our partner, make them the most important thing, listen and really give our whole selves, that frees up our emotional life. And things will come up that we didn't even know we had. We would have never even planned, even if things that we couldn't have made as well had we planned. And that's when it's exciting for us as actors. That's when it's fun, when we're living the scene and we're surprised. So yeah, sometimes, listen, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the most helpful direction. It's not. There are some good directors out there, but the majority of them are more into the shots and the story, and they don't know how to help actors get there. And so you have to receive it as best as you can, and then know how that makes you feel. And again, use it. Trust yourself. Trust where you are is perfect. If you've done all your homework, then where you are is perfect for the scene in the moment.
what happens when you just have like one line in a TV show or something? You have one line, I don't know, you're 2 o'clock's here or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question. And I find those the most difficult to audition.
Oh, they are. They're horrible.
They're so hard. And
Yeah.
you have to do the same work. You have to know who you are in the scene, who you're talking to, why are you there, what's happening. Excuse me, if you are the secretary that pokes your head in saying, your 2 o'clock is here, is your boss in a good mood? How has that been? Who is the 2 o'clock? Is it someone that your boss doesn't want to see or is excited to see, or it's and then also know you are I shouldn't say just a co-star, but you are the co-star. You're not the lead, so you don't want to mug or make it needlessly interesting, when the truth of the matter is you are there to serve a purpose. But you still have to be full and alive and know know who you are, and how long have you been working with this person.
Right.
And so you ask yourself all those specifics so that you embody, you are his assistant
Right.
or her assistant.
I love it. Any other questions from, I'm looking to see if there's any other questions or anything else that you want to talk about, Stacy, about the business now, or any recent jobs or anything that you've been working on?
I was really fortunate at the end of the year and the beginning of the year to do a couple independents that are still being worked on. Again, then we got hit with COVID, so that slows everything down, editing and all that stuff. So I don't know the status of where they are, but it was really nice to be able to work a bit. The business, I have heard some friends getting some auditions. Commercially, sometimes they actually go in person, which is, all my actors that have been doing that, they explain, yep, it's different in the fact that you have to show up right at your time, and you do the whole sanitizing, and you wear the mask until you get in there and take it off to do your slate. And so everyone's very careful, of safety, but it really seems, and again, this is just what I'm noticing from myself and from my actors, that it's a lot of self-tapes, and but it sounds like things are slowly starting up again.
Yeah. No, August was quite busy, and things are filming, and they're just doing a lot of COVID testing. Every single person is COVID testing, from the caterer to the background, from the lead. Even I was working on this project, this Disney project, and the director had to go out and get his COVID test. And I mean, he even said, even I have to get it. And I said, well, yeah.
Yeah.
You're the one who's really close to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody has their masks on except the actors during the take, and then you put it right back on. And it's such an odd thing, because you become, I mean, this is just from my experience, you become comfortable without the mask then. And it's like, oh, I have to put it back. It's like it's slapped back into reality. You become comfortable. It's like, oh, this is what it used to feel like, and back on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Has your technique ever changed depending upon the project?
That's such a good question. Not really for me, but that doesn't mean that I haven't learned things over the course of my career, because I've been working since I was 18. I've been doing this for a long time, and my foundation and my technique is pretty solid. But I have also learned technical things about the camera, and that have been very helpful, and that was on the job experience. So there's nothing that can substitute for on the job experience, I must say. So that's why I think any young actor or anyone wanting to update their reel, even, or just write the reel, some of my actors have been writing their own material and filming it themselves. Nowadays you can. I commend them, and some of them look amazing. I mean, with the available lighting that we have now, and everything that's on our phone. So we learn from that, or from student films, or non-union short films, whatever we can, even if it's not really a paying gig. It's about learning. It's about your craft. And if you get a clip of a scene, that it's weight in gold. But so that's why I personally feel I was so fortunate, because it worked the Meisner technique works so well for me. And believe me, I understand that there are many other methods. I've read about them, I've read Stanislavski and Uta Hagen and all that. But what works for me is that technique. So doesn't mean I'm always successful at it. Doesn't mean that I don't get rusty. Doesn't mean I don't get fearful and self-doubt and don't trust myself. Over the course of the years, I've gone, on that roller coaster ride, but that is my approach.
That's great. And I know you do it for commercials, and because I teach commercials primarily, and I always makes Meisner references in commercials as well, because it's the exact same preparation. Exactly.
Right. Which, by the way, your commercial class should be taken by every actor. I mean, it's so good. It's so
Thank you.
Specific and a wealth of knowledge and creative, and yeah, it's a great class.
Thank you. Let's see, typing at the same, okay. You've done some amazing projects and worked with some amazing people. Any stories that stand out?
You mean I think of all the ones I can't say?
Well, here's one. We always take a clip from your Shameless.
Oh yeah.
It was I had no idea it was coming, but here you are, you're the grieving widow, and you take down William Macy, and do the nasty. So I just
that show was such a fun job, because it is shameless. The writing is fantastic. The actors are superb. I mean, it was fantastic just watching them. And even the directors I got to work with, I had an opportunity to do 2 episodes, were just really encouraging, and they said, just go for it. I said, are you sure that it's shameless? So they were just really just giving you the green light to just go for it. And so I felt so lucky doing that, because it was just so fun. It was so fun. But yeah, and William H. Macy is amazing. I mean, when you get an opportunity to work with such solid actors who are so giving and are so there for you, it makes your level of acting and being present, you hopefully rise to the occasion. It only makes you better.
Yeah.
It was a great gig.
That's great. I loved watching that, and many, many other things too. Let's see, what else? Looking here. Grieving mother. What does that mean, Hannah? Grieving mother. What's grieving? Oh, the grieving mother. Yeah, no, she was, that was what, okay. I think she's trying to help me here. How do you do yourself at a time when things are so slow? I don't know what that means. What was the transition from theater to film originally like?
Yeah, there was an adjustment for me. I was lucky I was on a soap, because that's how I learned to use the camera to feed me energy, to trust if I am listening fully, I don't know how else to say it, but I'm as large as I need to be.
Right.
And it's interesting, because there are some young actors that I'm working with or have worked with over the last, year or so. And they keep everything in. Mm-hmm. They're kind of the opposite.
Right.
And their fear, I think, is to overact.
Right.
And
I've noticed this a lot myself.
Yeah. And what I hope this is helpful, but what I try to explain to them is, I promise you're not going to overact if you are fully listening. right now you're in your head, you're trying to control, you are playing a mood, you are very self-aware. So I got to tell you, nothing's happening. But if you forget yourself, if you've done your homework, just listen to your partner. Things will surprise you, things will come up, but I promise you, you won't be overacting.
Right.
And so on a similar take with theater, you do the same work with theater, but it's more intimate. Your audience is right here. The camera is your audience. So you're not having to reach the back seats. So you do the same homework.
Right. Right.
But you just know that you accept. I like to use the word accept than believe or know, because that kind of puts us in our head.
Right.
I believe the situation makes us, wow, I'm really not seeing the TV. I know I'm supposed to be watching TV, but I can't see. Whereas if you accept that you're watching TV,
Right.
you know, all of a sudden your body kind of leans back and you're watching
Right.
TV. It's amazing what our bodies are, our instrument is able to do with, like, we don't think about breathing. It's the same with, if we leave ourselves alone and we accept the given circumstances, our body knows. And sometimes it doesn't, I believe, doesn't even know fact from fiction.
Right.
It's just, you've accepted it. So I've even, you know, told my actors, so when you go in and you audition for the person who's dying or the person who's in a wheelchair, I go out into my car afterwards, oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me use, you know, my imagination and my life, but I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm walking. I'm not dying. My kid's alive and healthy. Whatever it is that you use, and because you need to let your body know, no, everything's good.
Right.
Because our body really is incredible.
Yeah.
Acting is mind, body, spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has just been so great. I just love chatting with you. And
I love chatting with you, Judy, anytime.
it's so fantastic. So those 2 movies, we'll look for those.
Okay.
And your class is, we do have availability in the scene study class. You do have to audition. And booking the theatrical is, Teresa has a question. Okay, sorry about that. Teresa's question is, I don't see it. Let's see. Teresa has a question. The question was, how do you inspire yourself when things are tough?
That is such a good question. Yeah. I think for all artists, you know, and maybe I shouldn't just exclude it to just, I mean, just exclude everyone else. I mean, I think in life we need to be inspired, but in particular, we're talking about acting and artists. I think it's great to notice everything from the mundane. I think it's really important to be present. And I know when I'm not present. I can go for days not really being present. You know, it's just, okay, I got to go do this, and I got to go do that, and I got to go do this, and got to do that. Oh my gosh, I have a break. I'm just going to play my game, you know? I mean, so it's easy to avoid being present. But when we are present, when we just slow down and we allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, then all of a sudden I notice the beautiful day. I notice all the birds in my neighborhood, and I'll go for a walk. I'll go to the beach. I'll read a book that has been sitting next to me forever. And I think, you know what, I'm going to take the time. When we do have the freedom to go out, I think it's important to go to museums, do things that you don't normally do, you don't expose yourself to, or don't get a chance to, so that we can feel inspired by other artists, other ways of creating, other ways of expressing. It takes effort.
Yeah, it does. In the artist way, I think the hardest thing to do was to have an artistic date.
Oh yeah.
With yourself. No one else is coming. It's just you on an artistic date, and I did find that to be challenging. I can do a pampering date with myself.
Those are
But
important too.
yeah, they are. But to just go and allow myself to be inspired by whether it be, a mountain or the beach or a museum or something. Yeah, and it is. It's part of that whole process. You're right. We are a whole, complete person with many, many senses and stimuli
Yeah.
we can react to.
Mhm.
So I do think it's really good. It's really good that you asked that question, Teresa, and I'm glad that you answered that, Stacy, because I have to do that for myself. Because this is a tough time to be inspired. You know.
Totally. And we are social creatures, humans. And I know that I've been, as everyone else, alone, at least even if I'm with my son, as far as adult conversation or something that even he and I obviously love him to death, but we're on two different areas in our life. And I just crave connection with another adult, conversation about anything, but especially if it could be something creative. We need that. And so if we are spending a lot of times alone, we need to reach out and just connect and on some level with somebody.
Yeah.
To Because it's a force. Even in life, it's just, we need each other. You need each other in your scene. We need each other in life, and there, hopefully we will find inspiration or why we're here even.
Well, I always get inspired by my students. I always get inspired. And, I'm not going to lie, it's like 6:45, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Oh, I don't know. And then as soon as they're there, it's like, hi.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, there are days I'm so tired. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then you're
Yeah.
right. I'm so inspired by them and impressed with their bravery and their earnestness and their determination and their desire and yeah. And the fact, I feel so lucky. I love my group of actors, and they really support each other.
So
And
great.
it's an inspiring place.
Well, you've inspired many, that's for sure. And if you haven't seen any of Stacy's testimonials, you have to watch the video because it's inspiring. That's inspiring right there, what you've done for people. So,
Thanks, Judy.
yeah, absolutely.